Welcome to the Georgia Archives Virtual Lunch and Learn Program. I'm Penny Cliff, Education Specialist here at the Archives. We're glad that you've joined us for our March presentation, Fox Theatre Institute Programs and Georgia Historic Theatres with Director of the Fox Theatre Institute, Leigh Burns. Our Lunch and Learn programs are held on the second Friday of the month and are sponsored by Friends of Georgia Archives of History. Thank you, FOGA. During this pandemic, we want to offer you lunch and learn programs safely in a virtual format. As always, we're thankful that our colleague, Alec Hawthorne, is taking care of the technical side of these virtual presentations. Alec will upload the video of this lunch and learn to our YouTube channel, Georgia Archives. So, if you have friends who are unable to watch the presentations live, they don't have to miss out and can always see them later on our YouTube channel. We are pleased to have as our March Lunch and Learn presenter Leigh Burns, who will answer any of your questions at the end of her presentation. Leigh is Director of the Fox Theatre Institute at the Fox Theatre in Atlanta. Before joining the Fox Theatre, she served as the Education and Outreach Coordinator for the Georgia Main Street program at the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. She additionally worked for numerous years with the Historic Preservation Division, Georgia Department of Natural Resources. Leigh has 20 years of historic preservation, planning, and community development experience, including internships with the National Park Service and the Historic Oakland Foundation. Leigh received a Master's of Heritage Preservation degree from Georgia State University in 2001. In 2014, Leigh was presented an Award of Excellence in Historic Preservation from the Atlanta Urban Design Commission. She holds board positions with the Georgia Downtown Association and Young Harris College Alumni Board. Leigh is a native of College Park and resides in Druid Hills with her husband. She actively volunteers with the Historic Oakland Foundation and the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation. We are very happy to welcome Leigh.
Thank you so much, Penny, for that kind introduction. I also want to thank the entire staff of the Georgia Archives for having me here today to present to you all about the Fox Theatre and Georgia's historic theaters. I'm going to get us started today by letting you know a little bit just about the Fox Theatre, give you a little bit of an overview about what we do and who we are. Of course, the Fox Theatre is a nonprofit organization, and it's proudly been a part of performing arts in Georgia for almost 100 years now. And our mission is to preserve and share the Fox Theatre. The Fox Theatre is also a National Historic Landmark theater, and we opened on Christmas Day in 1929. The theater has approximately 4,665 seats, and we host more than 175 live performances a year. And many of these performances range from Broadway Across America series to movies, concerts, book tours, comedy shows, and more. Also, many of you probably over the years have come to events in our ballrooms. Our ballrooms and additional special event spaces host more than 150 private events per year. And also with the boom of the Georgia film industry, we've been really lucky that we're a major film destination for major motion films and numerous TV series. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about two main things. I'm going to talk a lot about the Fox Theatre Institute and the work we do with Georgia theaters and Southeastern theaters, and then I'm going to talk about Georgia's historic theaters. And I'm going to talk more in relation to advocacy of those theaters and how you all, as archivists, preservationists, community citizens, patrons of historic theaters can be involved with those. So we're going to kick it off a little bit today and talk to you about the Institute itself. So the Fox Theatre Institute is a dynamic outreach program offering historic preservation, grant funding, operations expertise. We also work in consultation, and we have education to performing arts venues in Georgia and also the larger Southeast region. We also provide a way to pay it forward to other theaters in our state and beyond. And I'd like to mention a little bit about this. Many of you over the years, especially if you're Atlanta and Georgia natives and even Southeastern folks, you remember our major Save the Fox campaign in the early 70s. And really and truly, the Fox Theater Institute was born out of the mission to pay it forward to Georgia theaters. When we were saved by the community in Atlanta and so many preservationists, we found that this was a great way to give back to our state and kind of not only share some of the financial success through grants, but also expertise through operations, through production, and through those type of day-to-day functions of historic theaters. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about why that's so important to us. We really appreciate all the support that we've had from the Fox, and this is a way for us to return it. So you know, our grant funding comes through Fox Theater ticket sales, as well as concessions and other revenue. So when you come to the Fox Theater, maybe you come up from the south or the north of the state and you might fight some traffic. When you come and you buy that ticket and you buy concessions, a part of that revenue is taken and it's returned, hopefully to your hometown. Our other outreach programs are additionally funded through grant funding of other organizations, both city, county, and statewide. So we do go after small grants to fund our Fox in a Box program to make that more available to school children all over the state of Georgia. And then we also have our Friends of the Fox membership program that also provides funds. And I want to thank all of our Friends of the Fox who might be watching today. So our staffing, all of our programming is based at the Fox Theater in Atlanta, and we provide services throughout the entire state of Georgia. So just because we're, stationed in Atlanta, we work in all 159 counties and are available for technical resources. We began our program in 2008, and we currently have awarded more than $1.8 million in grant funding in Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, and North Carolina. We started doing out-of-state funding as a pilot, really, through the Hurricane Relief Grant Program, and we've done a little bit more in the state of Alabama. I want to begin specifically talking about our programs with Fox in a Box. So many of you probably have heard of our outreach program to students. Things are a little bit different right now with COVID-19 and with our accessibility to schools. So typically we, as of fiscal year 2021, our school program has visited over 29,000 students and teachers statewide. We've been very fortunate that we've been able to fund this program. It's a K through second grade curriculum interactive exhibit. As you know, you can see the photo on the right. We take it to schools, we put it up. It has a video component and it has activities that relate. We've recently transformed the program to a virtual program that'll also be year-round, and it'll include summer camps and now homeschool groups. I'd like to mention and give a big thanks to the AT&T Foundation for a $25,000 donation to Fox in a Box, also to the Georgia Council for the Arts for a $6,000 donation. That was a pass-through from the National Endowment for the Arts, and we want to thank our partners for funding, especially this virtual version that went live in January of this year. We also offer in-house school tour programs, and when we reopen the Fox, we would love to welcome back more students. We started in January of 2019. We began hosting school tours for students really to support the state of Georgia arts and humanities curriculum for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. We piloted this program and made it permanent, and then around the time we did that, of course, COVID-19 came into play, and we had to hit pause on these school tour programs, but we can't wait to really get these going again and invite the students to come back in those grades. We also have a Friends of the Fox program that I mentioned earlier. We have 183 active Friends of the Fox. A lot of our funding comes through these memberships, and that benefits all of our patrons across Georgia, especially through grants. Membership is also a greater way to get involved at the Fox Theater, and you enjoy some behind-the-scenes experiences. We have different levels of membership. They range from a friend level of $100 to $10,000 as a landmark member. We have numerous special events throughout the year, including complimentary tickets to the Coca-Cola Summer Film Festival and free self-guided tour guide access. So we would encourage you, if you're interested in becoming a Friend of the Fox, that you visit our website. I also want to mention Georgia Presenters, and I hope that many of you, after my talk today, will find out if your local theaters are a Georgia Presenter. Georgia Presenters is a statewide booking consortium, and it provides collective programming to presenters so they can work together to increase presenting opportunities in their own communities statewide. Currently, we have 50 active members. And we also meet very regularly, 2 block meetings per year where we get together and talk about upcoming talent and what the entertainment season looks like, and then a summer retreat, as well as now monthly support meetings. Those monthly support meetings have been very helpful as COVID-19 closures have impacted all of our more than 50 active theaters around the state as they have us. And we've been able to relay with them funding opportunities, all kinds of support, and we've gained a lot of support from them too. The Fox Theater also typically in non-COVID years has funded $30,000 in block booking grants for each of our members. So every member can apply for these grants to get an offset for talent, for cost, to have the absolutely best entertainment in their venue all over Georgia. If you're interested in becoming a Georgia member, Georgia Presenters member, please reach out to us on our website. It requires that you present at least 1 time per year, that you're an active either historic or non-historic theater, and you can be a nonprofit, you can be owned and operated by the city. There's all types of levels of membership. Please reach out. I also want to mention our Georgia Public Library Service Program. And we're really excited that we have had the opportunity to partner with GPLS beginning in 2019. And even though COVID put a halt to the program temporarily, we've already been able to bring this interpretive Fox in a Box exhibit to 13,000 people across Georgia in libraries. We've planned more than 30 libraries to participate in the ongoing program. Many of the libraries also, in addition to displaying the Fox in a Box exhibit and teaching that, have been adding a local focus for their own theater, Fox in a Box. So when you go to your local library, the exhibit's set up for you there. You can also sign up for an interactive time to come from early childhood to adult learning to see the exhibit, to have the librarian go through the exhibit with you, and then have activities following. This has been a great opportunity, and hopefully it'll resume in summer of 2021 at the Screven County Library. You can look to the left and see the planned stops. Screven County Library, Three Rivers Regional Library System, the Southwest Georgia Regional Library, DeSoto Trail Regional Library, Doherty County, Leesburg Library, the Washington Memorial Library, McDonough Public Library, Clayton County Library System, where we are right here in the archives in Morrow in this county, and Gwinnett County. So we're really excited to bring this to you all, and I hope that you'll take advantage of seeing Fox in a Box in your local library. Our newest partnership program is the Southface Institute program. And we were really excited to start this process last year in planning, and then start it really effectively with an application process this February. It's our newest membership program. It's providing energy consultation and financial support through established Good Use program. As you know, Southface Institute has many programs. The Good Use program allows for quarterly application processes for up to $45,000 in grants, and up to 6 of those grants per cycle. It does require somewhat of a match. And what this grant really gives is an opportunity for historic theaters to find out how they can impact savings through sustainability and greener infrastructure programming, to put that money back into other programming, say into performances or summer camps or education or even archival programs. For us, this is a way that we can help our fellow theaters save on those funds and reapply them. It does provide energy studies and sustainability professional consulting, and it's awarded to all participating theaters that are granted this funds. We also open this to the whole Southeast. It's not just a state of Georgia, it's to the whole Southeast. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk specifically about our grant programs. I think we're probably most well known for our grant programs. And our grants began a much larger increase in the fiscal year 2017. We took what was allotted as around $150,000 and raised that to $500,000. So when I say that we've given out $1.8 million, the past 2 years that we've been able to do that and before, it's really made an impact with theaters that weren't able to qualify maybe for state funds or federal funds. And I'm going to go through the different programs with you. We don't know yet if we will be able to open these programs. We're hopeful, but I'd like to go through all of them and show you some of the success stories with some of these projects. And I'll begin just by explaining the 4 categories. So we have 4 categories of grants. There's the preservation grant, the technical assistance grant, historic structure study and planning grants, and urgent and emergency grants. So there's 4 different categories that you can apply for. 2 are non-matching and do not require a match, the technical assistance grants and the urgent and emergency grants. The other require a 1-for-1 50% match. So let's kick it off with the preservation grants. So our preservation grants are awarded on an annual basis, and they support the following needs. It can be to secure an engineering or architectural team to provide final planning and budgets for any type of project that impacts your historic theater. Just remember, these have to be historic theaters. Completing an overall preservation project or repurposing of a related structure, either a phase or other important improvements according to a study and planning process. So when you come to us to apply for preservation grants, what we really should have seen at that point is that you've done the legwork to study the plan to prepare what you need. Also, it can apply to the acquisition of a historic property or related properties. We were really excited in the fiscal year 19 to award our first acquisition grant to the Pex Theater in Eatonton, Georgia. The Pex Theater right downtown was the first time that we've utilized this acquisition funds, and we're excited to do more of this in the future. The acquisition also can be for real property for construction or construction. The project may include the renovation or alteration of a property. It can be in the order to comply with Section 504 of the 1974 Rehabilitation Act and the 1990 Americans with Disabilities Act. So it can also be for associated properties that would increase accessibility for your property, for your original theater. It also can be for the purchase and installation of equipment such as assisted listening access devices, seating, staging, sound equipment, lighting equipment, projection systems that will expand accessibility and availability of programming. The preservation grants, the applicants may apply for a minimum of $50,000 to upwards of $250,000. So if you have a $500,000 project, you could potentially apply to us for $250,000 to put towards that project. It can also be for a multi-phase project. So say that you're going to do phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Maybe phase 1 is getting a secure roof. Maybe phase 2 is building out an interior that had been previously demolished. Maybe phase 3 is the marquee. You could come to us over phases, over years. What we do restrict is that the funding is for can be for 3 consecutive years, not to exceed $500,000. So we need to make sure that we're equal with all the funds, that we disperse it well, and that, if we do a multi-phase with you, that we do the investment, we help you get on the feet that you have, and we help you push forward. Organizations receiving funding of $250,000 or above are not eligible to reapply for 3 years. So if you complete your 3 years, you have to wait. If you get $500,000 in 3 years, you have to wait to come back to us and apply. The reapplication may only be for a new project. It can't be for the previous project, unfortunately. And it must demonstrate an importance or benefit beyond the achievements of the earlier project. So we have yet to, in our history, receive this type of add-on reapplication process, but as we grow, I know that this will come into play more. The following criteria are used to evaluate the preservation grants, and these are just a few of those. Historical significance of the resource. We do require that the properties be 50 years or older or listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Also that the physical condition of the property be sound. The proposed use of the site and quality of the interpretive program are strong for your community. So there's a benefit to our investment to your community. Also the quality of preliminary planning or contract documents, including credentials of the project team, feasibility of the budget, and the work schedule. So what we'd like to see before we invest with you as a partner with large funds for preservation is that you've done your previous work, that you've set everything up the way you needed to, and that you've got the right team in place. There's also something where we look to make sure there's appropriateness of the project to meet the needs of the resource. If you want to apply for a marquee but your roof is falling in, obviously we'd want you to apply for the roof first. Also the ability of the applicant to match the funds. I mentioned that these are matching funds. Also beyond that, to maintain the property, administer the grant funds, and develop programs to sustain and interpret the property. So we like to see that this benefit has also kind of a purpose to increase visibility in the community, not that we're just doing it for the theater alone, but that the benefit is there. This is a grant that we worked on a few years ago, 7 Stages Theater in Atlanta. They applied for FTI grant funds to restore their marquee and complete some necessary HVAC and system repair work. They had a lot of match from other organizations, and we do allow that the match can be simultaneous with more funding. This is the Colquitt County Arts Center down in Moultrie, Georgia. FTI funded an upgraded lighting system and sound equipment for them to really help enhance the patron experience. That's a picture of the interior on the right, and it's the old high school in Moultrie. It's repurposed as an arts center. This is the Dixie Theater down in Swainsboro, Georgia. FTI granted funding to repair the stucco and historic plaster off the exterior, also window and door installation, new windows that were required, as well as other important rehabilitation steps in their long-term commitment to preserving the community landmark. This theater had been closed for decades and is in the process of beginning to reopen. It's been a wonderful project. And then the Imperial Theater over in East Georgia and Augusta. We were excited when we funded this project that the Imperial was celebrating their 100th birthday. We were able to help them repair some ornamental plaster that had not been accomplished. They provided a strong match, and we were excited to work with them on this. So I'm going to switch gears, talk a little bit about our technical assistance grants. These grants do not require a match, as I mentioned. They award direct access to experts in the field and to other resources in order to meet range of specific technical, organizational, and operational needs. They can be used for planning, for operational or strategic planning, professional development and training, organizational development, and also developing partnership and community programs. That can mean things like a festival. It can mean things like a history day. It's really kind of a very loose category for us, and we would love to see more people apply. It also can go towards business planning and operations towards sustainability, developing leadership and effectiveness of a staff and board members. So it could be for retreats, for professional training for those, and then guidance on technology. It can be used to upgrade website systems, update any kind of ticketing system that the theater might have that's out of date. These are wonderful opportunities. So this is the Grand Opera House in Macon, and they used the technical assistance funds to complete a comprehensive historic asset study to explore the venue's second balcony. They have a segregated balcony on the second top tier, and it's intact. It's one of the most intact historic African-American seating sections, probably in the theater in the country. And they were looking at seeing if it could be expanded. If it could be expanded, could it really increase the venue to over 1,200 seats? The total amount that was awarded for that was $23,500. And again, that was a non-matching grant, so that was a direct give. Also, when we talk about grants in general, we kind of started with the preservation grant. And before the preservation grant, what's so important is the historic structure study and planning grants. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how those are impactful to successful really to successful preservation projects for historic theaters. So they can be used for hiring a preservation architect, someone who is well-versed in the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, someone who has experience working on theaters and can provide really the best consultation with those particular architectural features. Also hiring a consultant to develop a conservation plan for an archives or a collection if you do not have one in your theater and you would like to start something like this, to really kind of getting that consultant in place. Also planning for renovations or repurposing of a related structure. So the related structure doesn't necessarily have to be historic. If you have a building in proximity to your original building and it's not 50 years or older, it can still utilize this money through planning for that structure to benefit your historic theater. I'm going to give you an example or two of some successful historic structure study and planning grants. This is Festival Hall in Greensboro, Georgia. FTI funded and helped secure consulting services to assess and support necessary additional space planning. They were looking at potentially putting an elevator in the back of the theater, possibly expanding catering services to the backside of the theater. If you've been to Greensboro, you probably know this absolutely beautiful building right downtown. It's the old high school gymnasium auditorium that was converted into their beautiful community theater. And Festival Hall had also previously received an urgent emergency grants fund, and that was to replace their failing stage floor. So this is a good time for me to kind of share with you that you can get multiple grants in different categories over multiple years. And when we have a successful project with you and it's in a really good place and it leads to another positive kind of impact, it's always a win-win. So we want you to remember that, you know, you could definitely phase these projects out over time while dealing with urgent and emergency needs that come up. This is the Grove Theater in West Atlanta. This theater is part of the development project of the Grove Park Community Foundation. If you live here locally in the metro Atlanta area, you'll know that it's going to be extremely impacted through the Microsoft venture at the quarry, and we're really excited to work with this community. We have supported funds for a specialized historic preservation architectural firm to perform a feasibility study. That was the first phase, and then subsequently they received 2 more preservation grants. You can see the original state of the building when we began the project. It was a pawn shop. And now this is a rendering of what it could potentially be when they reopen, we hope either this year or next year. But this has been a wonderful project for us. This is the Habersham Community Theater up in Clarksville, Georgia. And they were funded at architectural stage to determine the repairs needed to restore their historic marquee. There was some structural problems with supporting the marquee. You can see the photo on the left. And additionally, the study identified that the stucco repairs and the facade restoration was also needed. So that was our first grant with them. And then we did come back and fund some more of that project with them in a second phase. I'll switch gears now and talk to you about the urgent emergency fund grants. I have to say, I think I'm kind of partial to these grants because we see the impact immediately. These urgent and emergency support is really there to historic theaters and related structures that are really in emergency situations when immediate and unanticipated work is needed to save a historic resource. Some of those examples might include fire or water damage, natural disasters, which unfortunately in Georgia in the past 5 years we have seen a lot. Also general disrepair posing an immediate threat to the structure or the architectural integrity and longevity of the structure. These are non-matching grants. It can also apply to supporting the structure when it's in danger of imminent demolition and helping potentially to help find acquisition funding. It's also an option that we have to purchase a structure, either temporary or long-term, if the structural change or possible demolition are evident. So it kind of gives us a way to inject funds to a nonprofit or community that wants to really save that historic structure. The Building on the right is the Southside Theater Guild, and we helped them with an urgent emergency repair for their failing roof system. And on the left is the Telfair Center for the Arts, and we helped them fund some emergency window repair and also update an ADA accessible ramp. So these grants can range up to $50,000, and again, a cash match is not required. You can also use another grant award from any institution to match our institute as leverage. So a lot of times when we see someone come in, especially really with a multi-phase large project, we'll see a lot of partners anchor and help with the funding. This is an example at Theater Albany down in Albany, Georgia. This is a very interesting historic resource in that it's on the facade, a home, and in the back, a very large theater addition. The grant award helped complete repairs to a failing historic facade and columns that were damaged by several severe tornadoes early in 2017 and beyond. So this is our grants timeline, and I would like to say that, you know, we're kind of still in a place where we're waiting to see what next year or fiscal year is going to look like. This is the typical path for our grants. So we always have a June 1st kind of availability for the application. It's online always at our website, www.foxtheater.org. We typically, in the years past, have had a postmark deadline for applicants of August 15th. In September, we have a 6-person grant committee with representation from all over the state and all different professions related to historic preservation that meets to discuss the application. And then in November, the application decisions are announced and the awards are given. So those are that's an overview of the grants program. And at the end, we'll have time for questions if you have questions related specifically to some of the grants programs. I'm going to talk a little bit now about Georgia Historic Theaters. And as I mentioned at the beginning of my talk, I'm really going to talk about a study that we began in 2014 with support from partners as well as dynamic interns from the University of Georgia. And I'm going to just kind of mention a little bit about how that project began and where we are. So in Georgia, we believe that we have more than 250 theaters, drive-in theaters, auditoriums, and other performing arts venues in our state. Potentially, we believe that around 120 are actively presenting. You know, there's no exact to this, but we do believe that around that number are presenting some type of performing arts film, you know, open for accessibility in that way. In 2014, we began a survey of historic Georgia theaters through a partnership. That partnership was with the Georgia Department of Community Affairs and the Georgia Historic Preservation Division. FTI helped fund that as well as all the partners. And what it did was it helped hire an intern, Jared Holbrook from the University of Georgia, to begin taking lots of pools of database information from the Fox Theater Institute, from the Georgia Historic Preservation Division, and from the Georgia Department of Community Affairs at their Main Street program, and kind of consolidate it into one document, also to map it. I'll talk a little bit about that. But it created a baseline inventory of in-use historic theaters, historic buildings, historic drive-ins, historic theaters under renovation, former historic theaters that were closed and possibly converted, and theaters with only a facade remaining. We, of course, had the main goal of giving public access to the theater data, information, and photographs. And that's all available, everything that's been collected and pinpointed in NARGIS that we have. And many of you I know who do a lot of research, you're aware of the NARGIS component that's available through the SHPO website. It also really focused on partner goals and interests. It really needed to identify the needs of operating and non-operating theaters. So for operating theaters, what could FTI support in getting them to the next level? And for non-operating theaters, how to get them open. Maybe how to support a nonprofit that wants to attach themselves to the mission to reopen the theater. Also to understand how theaters serve as the keystone landmarks in local economic development. Many of you know that in your small towns in Georgia and even big cities like the Fox Theater and the Midtown growth know that often these landmarks are really what create a positive domino effect with economic development in downtowns. So we really needed to understand more how we could support those. And we also wanted to provide case studies of successful preservation and rehabilitation of those theaters. We also wanted to offer technical assistance. We wanted to be able to identify technical assistance needs and existing resources for theater owners and operators. We wanted to help theater operators identify future partner organizations to help fulfill their roles. Also to develop a network of property owners and operators in their communities by region. So when I mentioned Georgia Presenters before as a network, maybe this goal really was to serve as a network for those even that weren't open yet, that could help each other and kind of mentor each other. This is the Rylander Theater down in Americus, Georgia, that's also celebrating their 100th-year anniversary this year, and we want to send a special shout out to them and happy birthday. We also wanted to assist and inform our own FTI strategic planning. So for us, I would say this was kind of selfish for ourselves at FTI, that this was going to help us inform where the Institute would be going in the next 10 years and where we needed to find the ongoing need question, where we most needed to concentrate our efforts. And we were going to use that, obviously, to influence program development and expansion. On the left here, this is the Winterville Auditorium in Winterville, Georgia. I would say opening, I hope, very soon, recently rehabilitated. And this is the Tybee Post Theater on the right, down on Tybee Island, that is open now and having limited access shows. These are two wonderful examples of theaters that are continuing to do historic preservation work. And then we also wanted to really look at expanding really existing theaters database to make sure that we could provide the history of who received grants, what projects were completed with historic tax incentives, what technical assistance the theaters might have received to help them get to the next level, to make sure that we could apply to them the right tools, but also keep a record of that for other theaters to look at by region to know what might be impactful to their own work. And then also, one of our goals long term would be to execute a marketing program that includes continued use of social media, creating a project blog, submitting articles, and identifying outreach opportunities. On the right, this is an interior of the beautiful Morton Theater in downtown Athens, Georgia. One of the African-American founded theaters in our state, and just a wonderful theater that we encourage you to visit if you haven't. I'll throw tidbits in here when I can remember points of history. So I wanted to take a section of this talk and ask you all how you can help us, because we really feel like, you know, it takes more than preservationists to support historic theaters. It takes economic developers and community developers and people in the private sector who want to invest. And what we'd like you to do is obviously use our hashtag Georgia Historic Theaters to continue to support historic theaters through your own social media. When you're out attending an event at a theater, we'd love for you to just kind of tag it and make sure that others pick it up. And use your own social media to feature historic Georgia theaters, either personally or for your organization. And then follow our individual Facebook pages and Instagram feeds for more project information as the project continues to develop. And that would be the FTI social media, the Historic Preservation Division social media, and of course Main Street social media. Without our partners, this project has not been possible. I want to highlight, this is the Dixie Theater. I showed y'all a photo earlier in the presentation of the Dixie, and the interior and the exterior. This is post repair with the stucco. Is absolutely beautiful. If you're in the area of Swainsboro and you get a chance to go by, please take a look at this building. It's come so far, and I hope to see it open very soon. We also want you to reach out to your own local theater owners to find out how they are supporting historic preservation efforts and how you might help lend your own expertise. So possibly if they're not listed on the National Register and you would like to assist them in writing a National Register nomination. If you're a skilled archivist and they have no archives and they've not begun it, but they have items. If you could help them with a history day. There's so many people that could lend support to historic theaters. When we go to visit our theaters across the state, I'm always so excited to see retired professionals giving back to their own theaters through sound design, through lighting design, through IT. It's very inspiring. And we would love for you to share your preservation knowledge and ideas through local Main Street programs, HBCs, which are Historic Preservation Commissions, or preservation nonprofits. This is a picture of the Strand Theater on the left in Marietta, Georgia. They received a grant this past year to install a wheelchair lift to the stage, and we've been working with them for about 2 years. Absolutely beautiful theater. So also the way you can help is obviously attending events and supporting your own local historic theater, especially right now during COVID. If they're doing remote programming, if they're doing virtual programming, typically the price for that is so minor compared to what you would pay in person. You know, that's really important. Also consider hosting an event at your theater, volunteering for an event, especially when they have festivals, film festivals, music festivals, things that are anchored. And then generally, you know, help them sustain their presence as a community landmark. When historic theaters, historic schools, historic post office, historic courthouses, when these historic anchor buildings leave downtown, the impact can be devastating. So they really do need your support to make sure that they're at the center of the downtown discussion. And also help theater staff and volunteers, I mentioned, with a National Register Historic Preservation nomination. That can be through anything. That can be through research. It can be through writing. It can be through collecting data. You know, think about ways that you could kind of get out of the box and reach out and help them. These are some organizations that I want to list for you all to get involved a little bit more and learn about resources online. The League of Historic American Theaters is a phenomenal organization. It's a national organization that supports, mentors, guides historic theaters from Alaska to Florida and in between. And they have a yearly conference. They have a fairly minimal membership requirement and funding. And I would encourage you to visit their website at lhat.org. It's just a tremendous resource for anybody working in historic theater. Obviously, the National Trust for Historic Preservation, the National Main Street Center, our own Georgia Main Street program, the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation, which this year, I will say, did a wonderful job of listing in their places in peril 2 theaters that we really need to focus on, making sure we can help them move those forward. And then the Georgia Downtown Association, which really works to impact the economic development and community development of downtown. And I'll end today before questions with just saying that I would love for you to stay in touch. I would love for you to reach out via email or phone. If I can be of assistance to you, the Fox Theater Institute is here to support all Georgia theaters, not just theaters that we've given grants to, not just theaters that are in Georgia presenters. We're here to help. And that's our website at www.foxtheater.org. You can find out about memberships. You can find which grants we've given all over the state. We have a wonderful interactive map. If you go to our grants section, you can see a lot of success stories before and afters. And we're just really excited. Again, I'd like to thank the Georgia Archives for having us here today. And I put these 2 postcards up from our own collection and our own archives, and really want to just say that as an organization ourselves, we're always looking to make our archives stronger and make sure our own documentation is the best that it can be. And we appreciate this partnership with the Georgia Archives.
We have a few questions.
Okay, great.
First of all, how would educators find out more about Fox in a Box?
Oh, I love that question because it's never been more accessible than it is right now. Fox in a Box is virtual. It's free and open to all Georgia schools. Please go to our website, which is there on the screen. And on the top right, you'll see a bullet that will say Fox Theater Institute. Please click on that, scroll down, and find Fox in a Box. Reach out to us. We have a referral form you can fill out, and we will get back in touch with you.
Oh, we do have a comment from Josh.
Okay.
Great presentation. No question, just wanted to pass along a hello to you.
Thank you, Josh.
I miss getting to work and see you at Fox.
Same here, same here. Josh has been just a wonderful resource in our own archival work, and I'm glad you're watching today.
Okay, there's a question right here. Is which theater restoration project is the most meaningful for you? To you?
Wow, there's so many. I will say the most meaningful to me are the ones that haven't opened yet. The ones that we've met in a place where we get to work with those 5 or 6 people in the room who come together to clean the theater out, to you know, pull things out of storage. I'll give you a couple great examples. The Winterville Auditorium in Winterville, Georgia, the Grove Theater in Atlanta, and the Dixie Theater. I think right now, those theaters, to see them just in my 4 years with the Fox Theater Institute be lifted and on their way to opening has just been a huge professional fulfillment.
Brown said thank you. Also for the in-house tours, whenever they start up, how can they teacher contact you, and actually what does that entail? Sure.
So our in-house tours are for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, and we do offer those during the academic school year. You can go online to the same resource where it has the Fox in a Box, and there's a contact information. It's Maggie Fuller. You can reach out to Maggie, email her. We would love to resume those we hope in September of 2021, and please get in touch with us. We do like to see that there's some flexibility with the group, obviously with dates, because if we have a big Broadway show in the auditorium, we may not be able to have our guests in there, but we try to work around it. It's usually more of a scheduling problem than anything else, but please get in touch with us.
Okay, there's one more question. Does Georgia have a working historic drive-in theater that you know of?
Yes, right up the road. The Starlight, right up the road, the Starlight. And then I believe in Jessup, Georgia, I believe theirs is open, possibly in Tiger, Georgia. I'm not positive. Somebody could email us in, Penny, and let us know if that one's open. I think the Blue Ridge Drive-In might be open as well, but we do have active drive-ins, and the Fox Theater Institute would be excited to work and fund a drive-in. That's never been out of the scope. You know, these historic drive-ins are just amazing, as well as historic amphitheaters. We would love to fund, we have a few in the country, CCC built beautiful architectural amphitheaters that are historic. So both of those would be open to discussion for funding.
I remember that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leigh, for a fascinating presentation.
Thank you.
And please be sure to go on the website to look up everything that Leigh has spoken about. And this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, Georgia Archives, so that you can tell your friends about this. For our April 9th Lunch and Learn program, it's Atlanta from Below, exploring the history of underground on the Railroad Gulch. This can be presented by architect, author, and photographer Jeffrey Morrison. Also, we're very excited to offer a brand new program, and you're hearing about it first right now. We are starting this month the 4th Friday from the Archives, which will feature an employee of the Archives presenting on a topic in their area of expertise. Every other month, from noon to 1 p.m. on the 4th Friday of that month, we will offer an educational program. Our first presentation will be this month. It's going to be on Friday, March the 26th at noon. We'll be sending out press releases. It'll be on our Facebook page. Our first topic will be new research tools at the Georgia Archives, and our speakers will be Georgia Archives Deputy Director Kayla Barrett and Reference Manager Alison Hudgens. Information, as I said, will be posted on our website. Also go under announcements and you'll see later programs that we have. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you again, hopefully later this month.